The last line. The Nexari Empire's warships emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic locusts, their silver hulls reflecting the distant starlight. On the bridge of the EDF Intrepid, Captain Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with steady eyes, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic projections. Humanity's last defensive line, 50 ships against an armada of hundreds, was all that stood between Earth and total subjugation. Multiple hostile signatures detected, Lieutenant Park announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. They're deploying in attack formation Delta. Sarah nodded, a grim smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The Nexari always used the same formations, the same tactics. Their technological superiority had made them predictable, arrogant. That would be their undoing today. The enemy fleet approached with mechanical precision, their ships moving in perfect synchronization. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, with crystalline structures that channeled energy in ways human science barely understood. But understanding wasn't necessary for what Sarah had planned. All ships, execute Operation Firebreak, she commanded. Remember your training. Remember Earth. The human fleet scattered in what appeared to be panic, breaking formation as the Nexari advanced. To the Empire's tactical computers, it looked like chaos, exactly as planned. The enemy pressed forward, their energy weapons charging with an ominous purple glow. They're taking the bait, Commander Rodriguez reported from tactical, lead elements advancing past the targeting markers. Sarah's fingers tightened on her command chair. Time seemed to slow as she watched the Nexari fleet move deeper into the trap. They had conquered 1,000 worlds with their superior technology, but they had never faced humanity's desperate ingenuity. Captain, receiving transmission from the Nexari command ship, Communications Officer Zhang announced. They're demanding our immediate surrender. No response, Sarah ordered. Maintain radio silence. The Nexari ships pressed forward, their sensors detecting nothing unusual. Their arrogance was their weakness. They never considered that a primitive species could threaten them. They didn't notice the subtle distortions in space around them, the carefully placed gravitational mines that human scientists had developed in secret. All ships in position, Rodriguez confirmed. Waiting for your order. Sarah took a deep breath. Execute Operation Firebreak. All ships, fire. The space around the Nexari fleet erupted in chaos. Dozens of gravitational mines detonated simultaneously, creating a web of localized space-time distortions. The perfect formation of enemy ships suddenly found themselves pulled in different directions, their carefully calculated trajectories disrupted. Direct hits confirmed. Their formation is breaking up, Rodriguez called out, excitement creeping into his voice. The human fleet struck from multiple vectors, their weapons targeting the now exposed weak points in the Nexari ship's defenses. What had seemed like a chaotic retreat was revealed as a carefully orchestrated trap, catching the enemy between overlapping fields of fire. Multiple enemy vessels disabled, Park reported. Their shield harmonics are failing. Sarah leaned forward. Launch fighters. Target their command and control nodes. Don't let them regroup. Squadrons of Earth's newest fighters streamed from the launch bays of every human vessel. Unlike the sleek, advanced craft of the Nexari, these were ugly, practical machines built for one purpose: to exploit the weaknesses humanity had discovered in enemy defenses. The battle raged for hours, a desperate dance of technology versus tenacity. The Nexari tried to adapt, but their rigid tactical programming couldn't match the flexibility of human pilots and commanders who could improvise, who could think outside the parameters of optimal strategy. Enemy fleet at 60% strength and falling, Rodriguez announced. They're beginning to withdraw. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Not today. Signal the second wave. It's time to show them why you don't corner humanity. From behind Earth's moon, a second human fleet emerged, smaller ships, but faster, carrying weapons specifically designed to target Nexari systems. The Empire had never faced an enemy that could adapt so quickly, that could turn their own technological advantages against them. Multiple enemy ships breaking formation, Park reported. They're retreating. The bridge crew cheered, but Sarah remained focused. This was only the beginning. The Nexeri would return, and they would be angry. But humanity would be ready. They had proven today what she had always known, that determination and adaptability could overcome even the most advanced technology. As the enemy fleet retreated into hyperspace, Sarah opened a channel to all human ships. Well done, everyone. Today we've shown the galaxy that humanity won't go quietly. But this is just the first battle. The real war begins now. She looked out at the stars, knowing that news of this victory would spread across the galaxy. Other species who had bowed to Nexeri supremacy would hear that someone had finally stood up to the Empire, and they would watch carefully to see what happened next. Damage report, she ordered, already thinking about the battles to come. They would need every advantage, every scrap of intelligence they could gather from this engagement. The Nexeri would learn from this defeat, but humanity would learn faster. Prepare to recover our fighters and begin repairs, she commanded, and get me a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. They need to know that Operation Firebreak was a success, and that we've just changed the rules of this war. The bridge crew moved with renewed purpose, their earlier fear replaced by determination. They had proven that humanity could not only survive but fight back effectively against the most powerful empire in known space. It wasn't technology that would decide this war, but the will to keep fighting, to keep adapting, to never surrender. As Sarah began composing her report to command, she knew this victory would be studied for years to come. Not because of superior technology or overwhelming force, but because it demonstrated humanity's greatest strength, the ability to face impossible odds with innovation, courage, and the unwavering determination to survive. The stars seemed brighter somehow as the Intrepid moved to retrieve its fighters. Humanity had drawn its line in the cosmos, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hidden strength. Deep within the underground laboratories of Luna Base, Dr. Marcus Rivera stared at the captured Nexeri shield generator with bloodshot eyes. For 3 weeks straight, he had barely left this room, surviving on synthetic coffee and determination. Scattered around him were dozens of holographic diagrams, each showing a different aspect of the alien technology's quantum structure. "You're still here." Dr. Emily Chang's voice carried a mix of concern and amusement as she entered the lab. "The victory at Earth bought us time, Marcus, not an excuse to work yourself to death." Marcus didn't look up from his work. "They'll be back, Emily. And next time, they won't underestimate us. We need to understand this technology before that happens." The shield generator pulsed with a faint purple glow, its crystalline matrix humming at a frequency just below human hearing. It was beautiful, in its way, a testament to the Nexeri's technological advancement. But Marcus had begun to see something else in its intricate patterns, something the Nexeri themselves had missed. "Look at this," he said, manipulating the holographic display. The Nexeri built their shields using quantum-locked crystalline matrices. Perfect, stable, incredibly powerful. But that very perfection is their weakness. Emily moved closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied the display. "What do you mean?" "They designed these systems to be unchanging, unbreakable," Marcus explained, excitement creeping into his tired voice. "But quantum systems aren't meant to be static. They're meant to flow, to adapt." The Nexeri forgot that in their pursuit of perfection. He pulled up another diagram, this one showing the aftermath of the Battle of Earth. "Look at how their shields failed during the battle. When our gravitational mines disrupted space-time around their ships, their shield matrices couldn't adapt fast enough. They shattered instead of bending." Emily's eyes widened as she began to understand. "And you think we can do better?" Marcus finally looked up, a fierce grin on his face. "I know we can. We don't need to match their level of technological advancement. We just need to understand the principles behind it and apply them in our own way." He gestured to a series of experimental devices arranged on a nearby workbench. Each one contained a fragment of salvaged Nexari crystal, but modified with human-designed quantum processors. I've been testing a new approach. Instead of trying to create perfect, stable shield matrices, we're building adaptive ones. They're weaker in terms of raw power, but they can change and evolve in response to attacks. "Show me," Emily said, pulling up a chair. Marcus activated one of the test devices. A small shield bubble formed above it, shimming with an iridescent light that shifted between blues and purples. "Watch this," he said, picking up a small energy projector. He fired a burst of energy at the shield. Instead of trying to block it completely, the shield rippled and flexed, absorbing and redirecting the energy. Each subsequent shot was met with a different response as the shield learned and adapted. "It's beautiful," Emily breathed. "But can we scale it up?" "That's where I need your help," Marcus admitted. "The quantum processing requirements for a ship-sized shield would be enormous. But if we can crack that problem, we could change the entire nature of this war," Emily finished. She was already pulling up design schematics on her tablet. "I have some ideas about distributed quantum networks. If we linked multiple processors together." For the next several hours, they worked together, bouncing ideas back and forth. Other scientists and engineers joined them, drawn by the excitement of a potential breakthrough. This was humanity's true strength, not just individual brilliance, but the ability to collaborate, to build on each other's ideas. As word of their progress spread through Luna Base, the atmosphere began to change. Hope, which had been in short supply since the war began, started to return. Humanity might be technologically behind the Nexari, but they were proving that innovation and adaptability could level the playing field. Admiral Chen, newly promoted after her victory at Earth, visited the lab personally when she heard about the breakthrough. She watched the demonstration with intense focus, asking sharp questions about deployment timeframes and resource requirements. "How soon can we begin retrofitting our ships?" she asked after seeing the test shield shrug off a barrage that would have overwhelmed standard defenses. "We'll need at least a month to scale up production," Marcus replied. "But there's something else you should know." He pulled up a new set of diagrams. "These adaptive shields don't just protect against attacks. They learn from them. Each engagement will make them stronger, more efficient." A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. "Just like us," she said softly. "The Nexari think technology is about achieving perfection. We know it's about constant improvement." She turned to her aide. "I want every available resource directed to this project, and get me a secure line to the other fleet commanders. It's time to start planning our counteroffensive." As the Admiral left to make preparations, Marcus turned back to his work with renewed energy. The Nexari had made a critical mistake in their assessment of humanity. They saw a technologically inferior species and assumed that meant weakness. They didn't understand that humans had spent their entire history adapting, improving, finding ways to overcome superior forces. "Emily," he called out to his colleague who was deep in calculations, "I think I know how we can reduce the processing load by another 30%. She looked up, raising an eyebrow. "Show me." Together, they dove back into their work. Outside the lab, Luna Base hummed with activity as production facilities began tooling up for the new shield systems. Humanity had found its edge in this war, not by matching Nexari technology, but by transforming it into something new. The stars above the lunar surface seemed to shine with new possibility. The next time the Nexari came, they would find a very different humanity waiting for them. The counterstrike. Colonel James Okonjo stood at the helm of the EDF Shadow, watching his small fleet of stealth cruisers slip through the darkness of the Arcturus sector. 6 ships, recently retrofitted with the new adaptive shield technology, represented humanity's first major offensive against the Nexari Empire. Their target, the massive shipyards of Nexus Prime, where the Empire constructed their most advanced warships. "Status report," he commanded, his deep voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel in space. "All ships maintaining stealth configuration. Lieutenant Maya Patel responded from her tactical station. Adaptive shields are running in passive mode, just as Dr. Rivera designed. The Nexari detection grid hasn't spotted us. James nodded, satisfaction evident in his stern features. The mission had seemed impossible when first proposed, sneaking the strike force past the most heavily defended Nexari installation outside their home system. But impossibility had become humanity's specialty. Signal from the Hyperion, Maya announced. They've completed their sensor sweep of the outer defense perimeter. Commander Wilson reports multiple blind spots in their coverage, just as our intel suggested. Overconfidence, James murmured. They still think no one would dare attack them here. He straightened, addressing his bridge crew. That changes today. All ships, initiate Phase 1. The human fleet split into 3 pairs, each group targeting a different approach vector to the shipyards. They moved with precision born of months of training, their modified engines running cool and quiet. The new shield technology didn't just protect them. It actively absorbed and masked their energy signatures. As they drew closer to their target, the true scale of Nexus Prime became apparent. Massive construction docks stretched for kilometers, skeletal frameworks of partially completed warships suspended in space like mechanical constellations. Nexari worker drones buzzed between projects, their movements precise and predictable. Enemy patrol approaching, Maya warned. 1,000 kilometers, bearing 035. James watched the tactical display as a Nexari cruiser passed near their position. The enemy ship's sensors swept across them, but the adaptive shields shifted and flowed, bending the scanning beams around their hulls. They're past scanning range, Maya reported after a tense moment. We're still undetected. Begin Phase 2, James ordered. Deploy the packages. From each human ship, small objects detached and drifted toward different sections of the shipyard. They looked like debris, indistinguishable from the countless pieces of construction material floating around the facility. But each one contained a surprise that would change the course of the war. All packages in position, Maya confirmed. Awaiting your command. James took a deep breath. Once they initiated the next phase, there would be no turning back. He thought of Earth, of the billions counting on them to prove that humanity could do more than just defend. Execute Phase 3. The debris suddenly came to life. Each package split open, revealing swarms of microscopic robots, another innovation born from studying captured Nexari technology. But where the Empire used drones for simple construction tasks, humanity had created something far more ambitious. The nanobots spread through the shipyard systems like a digital virus, rewriting security protocols and corrupting construction parameters. Alarms began blaring across the facility as the Nexari realized something was wrong, but by then it was too late. Multiple targets acquired, Maya announced, her voice tight with controlled excitement. The nanobots have compromised their primary defense grid. All ships power up weapons, James commanded. Show them what we can do. The human fleet decloaked simultaneously, their adaptive shields shifting from stealth mode to combat configuration. Energy weapons powered up, targeting the now vulnerable construction base with surgical precision. The Nexari response was immediate but disorganized. Their automated defense systems were fighting against themselves, compromised by the nanobots. Their patrol ships turned to engage, but found themselves facing an enemy that could predict and counter their standardized tactics. First wave of targets destroyed, Maya reported as human weapons fire tore through the shipyard. Secondary explosions detected in multiple construction bays. James allowed himself a grim smile. Begin broadcast. A message began transmitting on all frequencies, in both human language and Nexari data formats. Your technology is no longer your advantage. Your perfection is your weakness. Humanity is coming. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the pride of the Nexari shipbuilding capability was in ruins. Dozens of nearly completed warships were destroyed or heavily damaged. More importantly, the nanobots had transmitted the complete technical specifications of the facility back to Earth before self-destructing. Mission accomplished, Maya announced, allowing pride to color her voice. All ships report minimal damage. The adaptive shields performed better than projected. Send word to Admiral Chen, James ordered. Operation Checkmate is a success. And add a personal note. Tell her the Nexari just learned that copying our technology won't help them. By the time they understand how we did this, we'll have moved on to something new. As the Shadow and its sister ships prepared to jump to hyperspace, James looked back at the burning shipyard. The Nexari had thought their superior technology made them invincible. They were learning, painfully, that technology was only as good as the creativity and adaptability of those who wielded it. Plot course for Rendezvous Point Delta, he commanded. And someone tell Dr. Rivera his shields just changed the rules of engagement. Again, the human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a monument to the Empire's first taste of real defeat. The message would spread quickly through Nexari space. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were taking the war to the enemy's doorstep. The Alliance. Ambassador Elena Torres stood in the grand chamber of the Araxian Hive Council, trying not to show her amazement at the living architecture around her. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, organic technology far different from both human engineering and Nexari crystalline systems. Before her, the Araxian Council queens towered in their alcoves, their iridescent carapaces reflecting the soft light. You come before us with bold claims, human. First Queen Cathera's thoughts resonated directly in Elena's mind, the telepathic translation making her antennae quiver. The Nexari Empire has ruled unchallenged for millennia, yet you speak of victories against them. Elena activated a holographic projector, showing footage from the Battle of Earth and the raid on Nexus Prime. We don't just speak of victories, honored queens. We deliver them. The Nexari are not invincible. They never were. They simply convinced everyone else that they were. The council queens stirred, their compound eyes reflecting the holographic battles. Second Queen Zarina leaned forward. Your species fights with unexpected methods. You take their strength and turn it against them. That's what humanity does best, Elena replied. We adapt. We innovate. And now we're offering you the chance to do the same. An alliance between our peoples could combine your biological mastery with our adaptive technology. Together, we could do more than just resist the Nexari. We could defeat them. The chamber hummed with the subsonic communication of the queens. Third Queen Melixa's thoughts carried a tone of skepticism. The Nexari will retaliate against any who stand with you. Why should we risk our hive worlds? Elena's response was firm. Because they'll come for you eventually. The Nexari don't allow any civilization to advance too far. You've already felt their pressure to limit your biological research, haven't you? The silence that followed told her she'd struck a nerve. The Araxians had indeed been forced to restrict their development of new biotechnology under Nexari guidance. Their civilization, based on organic growth and adaptation, was fundamentally threatened by the Empire's rigid control. We have something to show you, Elena continued, nodding to her aide. Dr. Rivera's latest project appeared in the hologram, a hybrid system combining Araxian biocircuitry with human adaptive shields. This is just a theoretical model, but with your expertise, we could make it reality. Imagine shields that don't just adapt, but evolve. Weapons that learn and grow stronger with each engagement. The Queen's antennae quivered with interest. Fourth Queen Nitera's thoughts rang clear. You've studied our technology. We study everything. Elena smiled. It's another human trait. We see potential where others see limits. The Nexari think biology is messy, unpredictable. We think that's exactly what makes it powerful. First Queen Cathera rose, her massive form casting shadows across the chamber. You speak of revolution, human. Of changing the very balance of power in the galaxy. Such things are not done lightly. No, Elena agreed. They're done because they must be done. The Nexari's defeat at Earth proved they can be fought. Their loss at Nexus Prime proved they can be hurt. But to truly win this war, We need allies who understand that perfection isn't about being unchanging. It's about being able to adapt and grow. The queens communed silently for several minutes, their thoughts closed to Elena. She waited patiently, knowing this moment could change the course of the war. The Araxians weren't the only species watching humanity's resistance with interest, but they were perhaps the most important. Their biological technology could open up entirely new avenues of advancement. Finally, First Queen Cthera spoke again. "We have reached consensus. The Araxian hives will join your alliance, Ambassador Torres. Our bioengineers will begin working with your scientists immediately." Elena bowed deeply. "The people of Earth thank you, honored queens. Together, we'll show the galaxy that true strength lies in diversity and adaptation, not in rigid perfection." "There is something else," Second Queens, Rena added. "Word of your victories has spread further than you know. Other species watch and wait. The Meridian Collective, the Quantum Concordat. They all see what you have achieved. They begin to question what they once thought impossible. Then let them watch what we accomplish together," Elena replied. "Every victory will show them that resistance is possible, that the future belongs to those who dare to change it." As she left the chamber, Elena's mind was already racing with possibilities. The Araxians' mastery of biological technology would revolutionize their adaptive systems. More than that, their alliance would show other species that unity was possible, that different approaches to technology and life itself could work together. She contacted Admiral Chen's flagship as soon as she returned to her shuttle. "The Araxians are with us," she reported, "and they bring news of others who might follow." Sarah's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Well done, Ambassador. I'll inform Colonel Okanjo to begin integrating Araxian bioships into our strike force planning. The Nexari are about to learn that the galaxy is far more diverse and far more dangerous than they ever imagined." As her shuttle lifted off from the organic spaceport, Elena watched the bioluminescent cities of the Araxian hive world pulse with energy and life. The Nexari had tried to suppress this beautiful, evolving technology. Instead, they had created another ally for humanity's cause. The war was entering a new phase. It was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that the future belonged to those who could embrace change, who could learn and grow and adapt. The galaxy was awakening to a new possibility, that perfection wasn't an end state, but a journey of constant evolution. The turning point. The combined fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Nexari home system, a sight unprecedented in the Empire's history. Human warships flew alongside Araxian biovessels, their hybrid shields pulsing with both quantum energy and organic patterns. Ships from the Meridian Collective and the Quantum Concordat had joined them, each bringing their own unique technologies to the Alliance. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned EDF Defiance, the first warship to fully integrate human, Araxian, and captured Nexari technology. Dr. Rivera and a team of Araxian bioengineers had worked for months to perfect the synthesis, creating something entirely new. "All fleet elements reporting ready," Commander Rodriguez announced. "The Araxian hive ships are in position. Colonel Okanjo's strike force is awaiting your signal." Sarah studied the tactical display, where the Nexari home fleet was scrambling to respond to their arrival. The Empire had never expected enemies to reach their core systems. Their defenses, while formidable, were designed to project power outward, not defend against a major assault. "Send the transmission," she ordered. The message went out on all frequencies, in all languages of the Alliance. "To the Nexari Empire, your age of dominance is over. You sought perfection in stasis, in control, in the suppression of change. But the galaxy is not meant to be frozen. It is meant to grow, to adapt, to evolve. Surrender now, or face the consequences of your rigidity." The response was exactly what they expected. A massive surge of Nexari warships powering up their weapons. The Empire would never surrender. They couldn't even comprehend the possibility. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Prometheus." Sarah commanded. "Show them what true evolution looks like." The Alliance fleet split into its component elements, each playing to its strengths. Human ships, led by Colonel Okonjo, engaged the enemy directly, their adaptive shields learning and evolving with each exchange of fire. Araxian bioships released clouds of microscopic organisms that sought out and infiltrated Nexuri vessels, disrupting their crystalline systems from within. Enemy flagship detected. Rodriguez reported. They're deploying some kind of new weapon system. A massive energy surge erupted from the Nexuri command ship, a beam of pure destruction that would have annihilated any normal shield. But the Alliance vessel's hybrid defenses responded in ways the Empire had never seen, the shields not just blocking the attack, but absorbing its patterns, learning from it. "Now," Sarah ordered, "deploy the synthesis." Dr. Rivera's greatest creation activated across the Alliance fleet. The hybrid shields began to resonate in harmony, creating a network of quantum biological energy that linked all their ships together. Each vessel's experiences, each adaptation, each lesson learned was instantly shared across the entire fleet. The Nexuri found themselves facing an enemy that grew stronger with every passing moment. Their perfect tactics, their superior technology, meant nothing against an opponent that could evolve faster than they could attack. Multiple enemy ships disabled. Rodriguez called out, "Their formation is breaking." Sarah watched as the mighty Nexuri fleet, for the first time in their history, began to fall back in disarray. Their rigid command structure couldn't handle an enemy that refused to follow the rules of conventional warfare. Message from the Araxian flagship, communications reported. Their bioweapons have successfully infiltrated the Nexuri defense grid. Their planetary shields are failing. All ships press the advantage. Sarah commanded. "But remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to teach them about evolution." The battle raged for hours, but its outcome was never in doubt. The Alliance fleet, growing stronger and more coordinated with each passing moment, systematically dismantled the Nexuri defenses. Their adaptive technology rendered enemy weapons increasingly useless, while their biological components breached supposedly impenetrable barriers. Finally, a new transmission came from the Nexuri capital. Their supreme command, for the first time in their history, was requesting terms. Sarah opened a channel to all ships. "The age of the Empire is over, but this isn't about replacing one form of dominance with another. This is about teaching the galaxy a fundamental truth, that strength comes from adaptation, from cooperation, from embracing change rather than fearing it." As the Alliance fleet moved to secure the Nexuri capital, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. Humanity had started this war alone, seemingly outmatched by an overwhelmingly superior foe. They had survived not by matching the Empire's technology, but by proving that innovation and adaptability were more powerful than mere technological superiority. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them that the war is over, but our real work is just beginning. The galaxy is about to enter a new age, one where different species and technologies work together, where evolution is celebrated rather than suppressed." The stars seemed to shine brighter as the Alliance ships settled into orbit around the Nexuri homeworld. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. They had proven that the future belonged not to those who claimed perfection, but to those who never stopped striving to improve. And in that truth lay the greatest victory of all.
The Awakening. The Discovery High Admiral Krex stood before the massive viewing screen in the command center of the Kethrin flagship Dominion's Edge. The screen displayed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star in what the primitives called the Milky Way galaxy. For 10,000 years, the Kethrin Empire had ruled over 300 star systems, bringing order to chaos and civilization to the savage corners of space. "This world troubles me," Krex said to his aide, Sub-Commander Voss. His scaled fingers drummed against the metal railing as he studied the innocent-looking planet. "Our scouts report the inhabitants have barely achieved spaceflight. They fight among themselves constantly, pollute their own atmosphere, and waste their resources on trivial conflicts." Voss nodded respectfully. "Yes, Admiral. our intelligence, suggests they call themselves humans, primitive bipeds with short lifespans and crude technology. They have not even established a proper colony on their own moon. Surely they pose no threat to the Empire. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Something felt wrong about this assessment, but he couldn't identify what. In his 3 centuries of service, Krex had learned to trust his instincts, yet every scan, every probe, every piece of data confirmed the same thing. Earth was a backwater world inhabited by a young, violent species that had only recently discovered how to split the atom. "Have we attempted communication?" Krex asked. "Limited. Contact only, Admiral. We intercepted their radio transmissions decades ago. Entertainment broadcasts, military communications, scientific data. All of it confirms their primitive status. They broadcast their military secrets in the open, argue about resources while their planet suffers, and spend more energy on recreational activities than advancing their civilization." Krex turned away from the screen. The Kethran High Command had made their decision. Earth contained valuable resources, including rare minerals needed for their expanding fleet. The humans would be relocated to designated zones, their world strip-mined for the greater good of the Empire. It was the same process they had used on dozens of worlds before. The hidden truth, what the Kethrans did not know, was that 3 levels, beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that had been operational for over 2,000 years, Commander Zara Valdris was watching them back. The Deep Space Monitoring Station had tracked every Kethran ship, decoded every communication, and mapped every weakness in their so-called invincible fleet. Zara stood in the center of the command hub, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of Kethran vessels throughout the galaxy. At 35, she was young for her position, but her mind had been shaped by humanity's greatest secret. Earth was not the primitive backwater it appeared to be. Humanity had been playing a very long game. "Report, Dr. Chen," Zara said to the elderly scientist at the central console. Dr. Chen adjusted his glasses and smiled grimly. "The Kethran fleet is moving into formation around Proxima Centauri. 6,000 ships, just as our models predicted. They believe they're about to conquer a defenseless world. And our preparations? Project Starfall is ready for activation. All orbital platforms are online, quantum communication arrays are synchronized, and our defense grid has been running, silent for 18 months. They have no idea what's waiting for them." Zara nodded. For nearly 3 millennia, humanity had watched other civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. They had learned, adapted, and prepared. While other species built empires through conquest, humans had built something far more valuable: patience, knowledge, and technology that made the Kethran Empire's best weapons look like stone tools. The truth was staggering. Humans had achieved faster-than-light travel before the fall of Rome, but they had chosen to remain hidden. While the Kethrans built their empire through brute force, humanity had quietly established research stations throughout the galaxy, studying every alien species, learning their strengths and weaknesses, and preparing for the day when someone would threaten Earth. "The Watchers reveal themselves, Commander Valdris," came a voice from the communications array. "We're receiving the expected transmission from the Kethran flagship." Zara straightened her uniform. This moment had been planned for generations. "Put it through." The image of High Admiral Krex appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features showing the arrogance that had made the Kethran Empire so predictable. Behind him, Zara could see the bridge of his flagship, exactly as their intelligence had described it. "Primitive humans of Earth?" Krex began, his voice carrying the tone of someone addressing insects. "I am High Admiral Krex of the Kethran Empire. Your world has been selected for resource extraction. You will evacuate your major population centers and report to designated collection points. Resistance is futile. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels, and your crude technology cannot match our empire's might." Zara allowed herself a small smile. "Admiral Krex," she replied calmly. "I am Commander Zara Valdris of Earth Defense Command. Before you proceed with your invasion, I thought you might like to know that we've been watching you for quite some time." The Admiral's expression shifted slightly. "Watching us? Impossible. Your species has barely achieved spaceflight. That's what we wanted you to believe, Zara said. Tell me, Admiral, how long do you think it takes to build a fleet of 6,000 ships? The current fleet represents 4 centuries of construction across 47 systems, Krex replied automatically, then seemed to realize he had given away strategic information. 4 centuries, Zara mused. Impressive. We built our defense network in half that time, but then again we had certain advantages you lack. What advantages could a primitive species possibly? Knowledge, Admiral. While you were busy conquering primitive worlds and celebrating your superiority, we were studying you. Every battle you fought, every ship you built, every tactical decision you made. We know your fleet compositions, your weapon capabilities, your shield frequencies, and your command protocols. Admiral Krex's scales began to shift color, a sign of agitation that Zara recognized from years of studying Kethran biology. You're bluffing. Our intelligence reports show your world lacks the industrial capacity to pose any threat. Our visible industrial capacity, Zara corrected. But let me share something with you. That mining operation on Kepler 442b that you're so proud of, the one that produces the rare earth elements for your ship hulls, we've been monitoring it for 60 years. The radioactive signature of those elements is quite distinctive. She nodded to Dr. Chen, who activated a secondary display. We've also been tracking your supply lines, your patrol routes, and your communication networks. Would you like to know how many of your supposedly secure transmissions we've intercepted and decoded? The color of Admiral Krex's scales was now approaching. Full combat red. Even if what you claim is true, you cannot stand against the might of the Kethran Empire. Our shields can deflect any weapon your species might possess. Can they deflect quantum singularities? Zara asked quietly. The bridge of the Kethran flagship fell silent. The moment of truth, Dr. Chen leaned toward Zara. Commander, our deep space. Sensors show the Kethran fleet is accelerating toward Earth. They'll reach the outer system in 72 hours. Zara turned back to the screen where Admiral Krex was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Admiral, I'm going to make you an offer that your Empire's arrogance will prevent you from accepting. Turn your fleet around, leave this system, and never return. In exchange, we'll pretend this conversation never happened. The Kethran Empire does not negotiate with primitives. I was afraid you'd say that. Zara gestured to her communications officer. Send the activation codes to all stations. Across the galaxy, hidden installations that had been dormant for centuries suddenly came online. Research stations disguised as asteroids powered up their quantum arrays. Deep space platforms that had been invisible to all sensors revealed themselves to the universe. And in Earth's solar system, defensive structures that had been built into planets, moons, and seemingly empty space began their final preparations. Admiral Krex, Zara said, you've spent 4 centuries building a fleet to conquer primitive worlds. We've spent 3 millennia preparing for someone exactly like you. The difference is we only needed to be right once. The transmission ended, leaving the Kethran Admiral staring at a blank screen. For the first time in his long career, Krex felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Not of death, but of the possibility that everything he believed about the universe might be wrong. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station, Zara turned to her assembled staff. Ladies and gentlemen, Project Starfall is now active. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our patience. The waiting was over. After 3,000 years of preparation, humanity was ready to show the universe what they had built in the shadows, while empires rose and fell in the light. The reckoning, the fleet arrives. 3 days later, the Kethran invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 6,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the pride of an empire that had never known defeat. Each vessel was a marvel of engineering, equipped with weapons capable of cracking planets and shields that had withstood the firepower of entire civilizations. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying tactical displays that showed Earth's pathetic defenses, a few space stations, some primitive satellites, and what appeared to be a small fleet of perhaps 50 vessels. The humans' boastful words 3 days ago now seemed like the desperate bluff of a doomed species. "Subcommander Voss," Krex said, "begin the bombardment sequence. I want their industrial centers eliminated first, then their major population centers. Leave enough survivors to serve as a labor force for the mining operations." "Admiral," Voss replied hesitantly, "should we not be concerned about the humans' claims? What if they were telling the truth about their hidden capabilities?" Krex's laugh was a harsh, grating sound. "Look at your scanners, Subcommander. Do you see any evidence of the vast fleet they claim to possess? Their quantum singularities, their defensive network? They were primitives attempting to frighten us with words they barely understood." What Admiral Krex could not see was the network of quantum phase devices that had been built into the very fabric of space around Earth's solar system. Invisible to conventional sensors, these devices had been growing and spreading for over 2 centuries, creating a web of interconnected energy patterns that turned the entire system into a single, massive weapon. The trap springs in the deep space monitoring station. Commander Valdris watched as the Kethran fleet moved into optimal position. "Dr. Chen, are all quantum phase devices synchronized?" "Perfectly synchronized, Commander. The Kethrans have positioned themselves exactly where our models predicted they would. Their formation is designed for maximum intimidation, but it's also created the ideal conditions for Project Starfall." Zara activated her command console. "All stations, this is Commander Valdris. Prepare for Starfall activation on my mark. Remember, we only get one chance at this." Across the galaxy, hundreds of hidden human installations received the signal. Scientists who had devoted their entire lives to this moment made final preparations. Engineers checked quantum field generators that had been built in absolute secrecy. And on Earth, families gathered around communication devices knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether their world lived or died. "Admiral Krex," Zara said, opening a communication channel to the Kethran flagship. "This is your final warning. Withdraw your fleet now." "The time for words has passed, Primitive," Krex replied. "Witness the power of the Kethran Empire. All vessels open fire." 6,000 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. The combined firepower would have been enough to sterilize a dozen worlds, turning planets into molten slag and wiping entire solar systems clean of life. The energy beams, particle cannons, and plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward Earth, a wave of destruction that should have ended humanity's story in a matter of minutes. Instead, the weapons simply vanished. The power of preparation. "What happened to our weapons?" Voss demanded, staring at his tactical displays in confusion. "The energy readings show they fired correctly, but there's no impact, no detonation, nothing." Admiral Krex was studying his own displays with growing alarm. "Run a full diagnostic on all weapon systems. There must be some kind of malfunction." "Sir," the weapons officer reported, "all systems are functioning perfectly. The weapons fired, but it's as if space itself absorbed them." That was closer to the truth than they realized. The quantum phase devices created fields that converted matter and energy into harmless quantum foam, effectively making it impossible for any attack to reach Earth. But Project Starfall was far more than a defensive measure. On Earth, Dr. Chen smiled as he watched the readings from the quantum field generators. "Phase conversion complete, Commander. The Kethran weapons have been absorbed and converted. We now have enough stored energy to power our entire civilization for the next 1,000 years. Or," Zara said quietly, "enough to do something far more immediate. Activate the Starfall protocol." What happened next redefined the concept of warfare. The quantum phase devices that had absorbed the Kethran attack began converting that energy into focused gravitational waves. These waves, invisible and unstoppable, reached out across space and began to affect the fundamental forces holding the Kethran ships together. The fall of an empire Admiral Krex felt at first as a subtle vibration in the deck plating. Then the ship's gravity systems began to fluctuate wildly. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the fleet as 6,000 vessels simultaneously experienced the same phenomenon. "Report!" Krex shouted over the growing chaos on his bridge. "Sir, we're experiencing massive gravitational anomalies. The ship's structure is under stress beyond design limits. Hull integrity is failing on deck 7 through 12. The entire fleet is affected, Admiral, Voss added, clutching his console as the ship lurched violently. Whatever the humans have done, it's tearing our ships apart at the molecular level. Through the main viewing screen, Krex watched in horror as ships throughout his magnificent fleet began to collapse inward. Not exploding, not burning, but simply folding in on themselves as if space itself was crushing them. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Thousands of massive vessels crumpling like paper in an invisible fist. Impossible, Krex whispered. No primitive species could possess such power. Commander Valdris's voice echoed throughout the dying fleet. We tried to warn you, Admiral. Humanity has been preparing for this moment for 3,000 years. While your empire conquered primitive worlds, we studied the fundamental forces of the universe. While you celebrated your victories, we learned patience. And while you built weapons to destroy, we built understanding. The flagship Dominion's Edge shuddered as its hull began to compress. Krex stared at the communication screen where the human commander's face remained calm and resolute. What are you? We are what you could have become, Zara replied. If you had chosen wisdom over conquest, patience over aggression, knowledge over dominance, we are humanity, and we have been watching you for a very long time. The New Galactic Order. The destruction of the Kethrin fleet took exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, where 6,000 ships had once floated in space, there was nothing but empty starfield and scattered quantum debris. The most powerful military force in the known galaxy had been eliminated without humanity firing a single conventional weapon. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication networks that humanity had quietly tapped into centuries earlier. Within hours, every major civilization knew what had happened in the Sol system. The primitive humans of Earth had just eliminated the Kethrin Empire's entire invasion fleet in a display of power that defied comprehension. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station, Zara addressed the galaxy through hijacked communication channels. Her message was broadcast to every world, every ship, and every civilization capable of receiving it. People of the galaxy, she began, today you witness the end of an era. For 10,000 years, the Kethrin Empire ruled through fear and force, believing that might made right. Today, that empire learned the price of underestimating others. She paused, allowing her words to sink in across hundreds of worlds. Humanity does not seek to replace the Kethrin Empire. We do not wish to rule over other species or conquer distant worlds. But neither will we allow any civilization to threaten our world or our people. The implications were staggering. If humans could eliminate the Kethrin fleet so easily, what other capabilities did they possess? How long had they been watching? What other secrets were hidden in the shadows of space? The message Dr. Chen approached Zara as she concluded her galactic address. Commander, we're receiving communications requests from over 300 different civilizations. Everyone wants to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. I imagine they do, Zara replied with a slight smile. Fear has a way of making people very diplomatic very quickly. There's something else, Chen continued. Our deep space monitors are picking up massive fleet movements throughout Kethrin space. Their remaining forces are retreating to their core systems, and several of their subject worlds are declaring independence. The Empire is collapsing, Zara observed. Without their military supremacy, they have nothing to hold their territories. Together, the galaxy is about to become a very different place. She turned to address her staff one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, Project Starfall is complete. For 3 millennia, humanity has prepared for this day. We have shown the galaxy that wisdom and patience can triumph over arrogance and force. But our work is far from over. What's our next move, Commander? Asked her communications officer. We do what humanity has always done best, Zara said, looking out at the stars through the observation windows. We watch, we learn, and we prepare. The galaxy now knows that Earth is not the primitive backwater it appeared to be. Some civilizations will seek our friendship, others will fear us, and a few will inevitably try to challenge us. She smiled, thinking of the hidden installations throughout the galaxy, the research stations that had operated in secret for centuries, and the defensive networks that could be activated at a moment's notice. Let them come. Humanity has been playing the long game for 3,000 years, and we're just getting started. Epilogue. The Silent Watchers. 1 year later, the galaxy had indeed become a very different place. The Kethrin Empire had fractured into dozens of smaller states, many of which were engaged in civil wars. Former subject worlds had formed new alliances, and several civilizations had established formal diplomatic relations with Earth. But perhaps the most significant change was invisible to most observers. Across the galaxy, other ancient civilizations that had been hiding in the shadows began to reveal themselves. Humanity's demonstration had shown that it was possible to survive and thrive without conquering others, and several species that had retreated from galactic affairs millennia ago began to re-emerge. Commander Zara Valdris, now promoted to Admiral of Earth Defense Command, stood in the newly constructed Galactic Monitoring Center. The facility was a marvel of human and alien engineering, built with the assistance of 3 other ancient civilizations that had contacted Earth after the Starfall incident. Admiral, Dr. Chen reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Proxima Centauri monitoring station. They've detected unusual energy signatures from the Andromeda galaxy." Zara nodded, unsurprised. Another expanding empire, no doubt. How long until they reach the Milky Way? At their current rate of expansion, approximately 800 years. "Plenty of time," Zara said with satisfaction. "Begin long-term observation protocols. I want to know everything about them, their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. By the time they arrive, we'll be ready." As she spoke, monitoring stations throughout the galaxy adjusted their sensors toward the distant spiral galaxy. Hidden installations began new research projects, and deep space probes started their centuries-long journey toward Andromeda. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the species that watches quietly from the shadows. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for one moment of revelation, and that patience had saved their world and changed the course of galactic history. But the Watchers were still watching, still learning, and still preparing. Because in a universe full of predators and conquerors, the greatest strength wasn't the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. It was the wisdom to wait, the patience to prepare, and the knowledge that sometimes the most dangerous species was the one that said nothing at all. The silent watchers of Earth had spoken once, and the galaxy had listened. Now they were silent again, but everyone knew they were still there, watching from the shadows, ready to act when the next threat emerged from the darkness between the stars. After all, humanity had always been very good at playing the long game.